Welcome everybody. Today is April 18th, 19th. My day's wrong. 2022. This is the Hannah City Village Council meeting. If everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. So first item up, we have Nathan Hendricks from Genesis Group. Yes. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so Nathan is somebody who is, you're on the Germantown board.
That is correct, sir.
And because of that, knows Cassandra. And Cassandra said, when we started talking about the electric aggregation program, that we needed to do something coming up this year. She said, I know a guy you need to meet. He knows a whole lot about it. I met with him, was honestly very impressed with all you knew and learned a lot. And as a result of that, felt like it would be good for you to come and speak to the board and kind of just tell them what you told me in terms of what we're required to do, not required to do, and kind of what you do, your role, and how you might be able to help us walk through that. Sure. Yeah.
So, again, like Brian said, I'm Nathan Hendricks. I'm actually president of Genesis Group Consulting. So, the reason I'm obviously here tonight is because your aggregate's up currently, and there's bidding process going on. That's a typical thing in my world. We see bidding all the time. The lack of understanding is where people get into trouble. Some people are kind of pushed into a situation where they're like, well, it's time to bid, let's go for it. Realistically, you have about 60 days from the time that your guys' contract is up for an aggregate to truly bid. That's your timeline based on whether it's the Illinois Power Agency or the Illinois Commerce Commission's set rules. You have 60 days from the time that your contract ends with an aggregate to decide if you want to stay with an aggregate or you want to go back to Ameren as a direct with Ameren Supply. With the situation you're in now, rates are all-time high, right? I mean, we're seeing significant rate increases throughout the electric grid. The issue I have is no one should buy electricity until you understand where Ameren's rates are. That's just given. Problem is, a lot of these aggregates like to push you to get you signed up prior to Ameren's release dates. Ameren's release dates are mid-May, mid to late May. That's what you're pushing for. You want to see those rates before you sign any agreement with any supplier. So my suggestion is you sit and wait, and you don't let anybody pressure you into purchasing the electric aggregate, because at the end of the day, it's going to be up to the residents anyway, whether they want to opt in or opt out, depending on what you guys choose as a governed body to have them do. And even with that said, they can still choose to get out of it anytime they want. Why is that? That's the law in Illinois. DS1 residential, you cannot hold them to any contract. They are allowed to get out of it any given time. Reason being, a lot of people have been hammered or slammed into situations where they can't control it, and they've been promised one thing, given another, ultimately paying more than they should have when they should have just stayed with Ameren. So a lot of this, instead of making noise, and I would say sit still, wait till Ameren rates come out. Once they're published, I can deliver those rates to the village board, and you guys can look at Ameren's rates and then compare them to other aggregates that are out there. So in this case, let's just use Bloomington. They just signed their aggregate 2-3 days ago. And it was like they got a rate of like 7.8 cents a kilowatt hour is what they're looking at.
And we're currently at about 4 right now.
Right. And right now, well, I can't speak of as of today because oil futures just went down for the first time because our federal government just released 144,000 acres worth of fracking today, which is a blessing to all of us at this point. We kind of need that so energy prices start to go down. But with Ameren's rates at about 7 point, that's about where I'm guessing rates should probably be, just because of the energy market as we see right now, and capacity constraints. The MISO just released today as well the capacity constraints within the Ameren territory, meaning they're worried about brownouts and blackouts. Why? Because your federal government decides they want to push more green versus what we have available. Well, because of that, they've got to get so much from the green space versus regular energy. But when you do that, you're going to hamper the system. But it is what it is. They will take care of it. They'll just deliver energy from further distances. But the problem is we're all going to pay for that. That delivery isn't free.
I guess the point I wanted to make is we're under our current aggregate contract. We're at 4 cents, I think, somewhere in that range,
which is a great rate.
Correct, but we're going to be looking at a significant increase.
Yeah, it could double easily without, and that's just what it's going to be just naturally for all of us.
Right.
So just with Ameren coming aboard, you'll see again mid to late May, Ameren's rates will be published for a June start all the way through next May. Is how Ameren manages their energy, and they buy for 2 times the year, summer and winter, and that's where their rates will be locked in roughly, unless the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission decides to jump rates. Then obviously rates can adjust from there moving forward. So all I'm saying is I would suggest just sitting still, wait till Ameren delivers their rate package. Once they deliver their rate package in May, you still have time, because if your contract's up in June, which it is, you have 60 days from that contract date to make a decision. You have more than enough time to choose and then also deliver that to the residents and let them decide, or let them not decide, and you guys just opt them in, let them opt out, whatever you guys choose to do. So.
And if I understand correctly, we don't have to offer an aggregate.
No, you don't have to do anything.
In other words, if the Ameren direct rates are better,
I would say stay still. In fact, we did that last year. It was weird, but with Germantown Hills, we signed them. It was 2 weeks later. The rates had already went up another half or 3/4 of a penny, and at that time that was a lot. Now they're going up pennies a day. But at the end of the day, it went up 3/4 of a penny or so within a couple of weeks. So I told the village of Metamora, just let the residents go back to Ameren direct, because right now it's just too unstable, and that's probably the best position to be in right now is with Ameren. So yeah, that may be what we need to do. It'll just depend on where the market is at the time that Ameren rates come out, and we'll continue to look at them, not just one time, right? Because you guys have 60 days to make a decision, so we can monitor it and just look at it consistently week by week and just see where the rates are. And if there's ever a dip, we would obviously educate you guys on that. Say, hey, there's a big dip in the market. You can save roughly, let's just say, a penny off Ameren. You want to move forward. If so, we can lock in that rate. Then you're a penny under Ameren at that point, and you can tell your residents that. So that's kind of where I'm at. Again, a lot of these communities that sign up with aggregates, they do it well before Ameren, and I don't understand why, because it's a lack of education, really, what it comes down to.
So along those lines, the aggregate that we're currently in with Good Energy has asked us to be in a meeting.
Okay.
And they're having their bid meeting on Thursday of this week.
Yeah, they adjusted it because of the MISO. Because of today's numbers coming out, they wanted to make sure that those numbers were, allowing them to bid properly, whether that's hedging more or less, right? That enables them to do just that.
So what I've told them at this point, unless the board tells me to do something different, is that we're not going to be locking in during that meeting or discussion. We're going to wait for Ameren's rates, and then we're going to make a decision at a later date.
Yeah, that's what I would do. I would just sit still. You got more than enough time to do it. There's no rush at this. And at the end of the day, the default's always Ameren. So worst case scenario, if nobody does anything, everybody's just going to default back to Ameren to begin with. So, that's really what it comes down to.
Brandy, you look like you got a question.
No, this stuff was interesting.
So the way the process would work historically here is we would have gone with Good Energy just because that's who we've always been with. After talking with Nathan, I kind of thought we'd be better off waiting until we get the Ameren rates and then making a decision at that point whether or not we just want to stick with Ameren or if we want to find a aggregate that we want to join. You'll walk us through that process. It doesn't cost anything for you to do that for us. If we wind up buying through an aggregate, then the broker, they pay you.
The broker pays me directly, right? So if it, let's just, Constellation, Home Field, there's multiple, obviously, suppliers that are out there. We're going to use the ones that actually generate power. We don't just use any supplier out there because suppliers can fold daily without, if they don't hedge properly. So we're going to use people like Home Field, Constellation, people that actually generate power as well. They don't just supply it to you, they actually generate and sell it back to the grid. So those would be the folks that will obviously give you bids on, and we'll show you all of them. We won't just push you into Home Field or push you into Constellation. We'll share with you everybody's rates, but obviously the rates will speak for themselves when you see them.
So in terms of process, we'll get the Ameren rates.
Yep.
You'll come back. You'll help us understand what those rates are, what the futures look like, and then
We'll just-
we can make a decision then as to how we want to proceed.
That's correct. It'll be either the first time we see the rates and the rates are lower than Ameren, could make a decision as soon as that. If not, I do have some villages that, because of the timing of their meetings, they make an executive call that somebody's allowed to. I don't know if you guys do some type of email system to approve it, but we have to be in mind that you guys have dedicated meeting spots, and I realize that. But sometimes the market's not going to necessarily play in that favor. So what we'll need to do is decide when that meeting is, try to take a snapshot of rates, and somehow get you guys aligned to the right price point. If it's lower than Ameren. Again, if it's not, then we're just going to say stay with Ameren, and then we'll revisit this next year. So, sound good?
Questions for Nick?
I'm always available, so just holler at me if anybody has questions after the fact, and I can be more than happy to answer any of them.
Thank you.
So, yeah, of course. Thank you. I appreciate everybody's time.
You're welcome to stay, but you don't have to.
All right, well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you.
Okay, recognition of other guests. Mr. Gully? Anything you want to speak on?
I just stopped by to pick up my liquor license.
And you were bored.
I was bored.
Lieutenant Butterfield?
Just talk a little bit about our upcoming summer. We've been having a lot throughout the county every summer over my history of being a police officer. Vehicle break-ins overnight. If you guys have a way to push out information on making sure people are locking their cars, 90% of the time they keep items of value out of eyesight. Nobody's going to break a car window. It's too loud. Everybody in the neighborhood will wake up. Lock the car doors. Keep everything out of sight. A motion light is very helpful. Just make sure people are aware so they aren't victims of property crime. Lately, stolen cars have been an issue throughout many areas of the county. So it's not just a city of Peoria issue anymore. People are traveling outside the city. Dunlap was hit hard the last couple summers with stolen vehicles and vehicle break-ins. Mossville, Chillicothe, Brimfield was hit a little bit. So just to make sure you guys are aware that property crime has seemed to be on the rise more than other types of incidents throughout the county, and make your citizens aware so they can protect themselves. Other than that, police calls out here in Kansas City seem to be pretty well average. A few battery incidents. I did notice this year there was already one vehicle break-in and another burglary, but other than that, it was pretty minor incidents out here in the village. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Okay. Thank you, Lieutenant Butterfield.
You're also welcome to stay, but you don't have to.
David, my badge partner.
Yeah, and we did pretty well.
Hey, we didn't do too bad.
We also didn't at all, so I'm sad. But my name's David Keithley. I'm the president of the Park District Board. Last night we had a very welcome guest with us, and we just wanted to pass on our gratitude. The partnership with the village has, in a lot of ways, just kind of kept us going significantly as long as I've been on the board, which is maybe, 6 years or so. And anyway, this intergovernmental agreement and the provisions you're going to be able to provide for us is going to it's given us a chance to breathe and to be able to move forward with some of our vision that we've set over the last year. We've been seeing some movement in that, but as you can imagine, with an old building like we have, it's one step forward, two steps back sometimes, and to be able to do something that really isn't very splashy in repairing that ceiling and putting some better insulation in there. It's not a sexy move, but it's a really good one.
But it's going to make it functional.
It's going to provide us that 365 day a year part of the vision that we had for the Park District. Right now, we're about three months shy of 365 days a year. You get to the summer months in our building, if you're not a fitness center member, you're not enjoying using that building because it's just brutally hot in there. So this moves us toward that goal. So thank you so much. The board was ecstatic last night. You can speak to that. I mean, we were all very, very smiley. So thank you so much.
Thanks for coming.
In front of you, everybody should have a copy of our April 5th, 2022 minute. If you haven't looked at those already, take a look at them.
Make a motion to approve the previous meeting minutes.
Second.
I have a motion by Pearson, second by Johnson. Any further discussion? Corrections, changes? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. Treasurer's report.
Everybody should have a copy of the board listing in front of them. The only thing I've noticed is on page 4, there was an error and I had to void a check and reissue it because I put it to the wrong vendor. So I just crossed it out and you can see where I changed that. Didn't change the totals or anything, but it's there. Oh, and there was the floor covering charge on here for the sewer backup.
Right,
That was on. So
we did have one Ameren bill that we will catch next time. I can't remember how much it was, $78, $75. That we can get, we'll get that with the outstanding bills next time.
oh, we are paying for the Microsoft 365 fees with this. I looked into other alternatives and talked with Tony about it, and this is the best way to go for us. So it's on the Pro. So
good. And with that being said, we'll go ahead, while we're on the subject of finance, we did go ahead and cancel the old month to month or yearly rate they were doing, the friends and family one that didn't give us all the bells and whistles that we needed.
Because we still had it for some reason. It never got canceled when it was supposed to have been. So
with that, we will need to change one of our licenses because Denise doesn't have a full license.
Okay.
So we'll need to move her from a basic to a standard license. Okay. So I'll have you email support on that.
I can do that.
Or
I have a question. Since we last spoke, Brian, how is the effort on getting Farmington and Peoria on board with the lawyer fees coming along?
Yeah, it's going well.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got that in later on.
Okay.
I'll cover it.
Because I'm looking and I'm like, this is how much Johnny costs?
Yeah.
Yep. So
I have good news on that front.
Make a motion to accept treasurer's report, pay all city bills.
Second.
motion by Johnson, second by Sidak. Any further discussion? We'll roll call that. Pearson?
Yes.
Sidak?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Excel? Yes. Motion carried. Mr. Locke?
I don't have anything formal to report, Brian. I don't know what, if anything at all, you wanted to say about the MFT bids. I know we can't take action, but
Yeah, I've got some under streets. I've got some stuff we'll cover then. But
okay, then I don't have any report. I'm here to answer questions and participate later on in the meeting.
thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. And Michael?
Mr. Mayor, I don't really have anything to report either. There's a potential rezoning coming up, maybe at the next planning commission meeting. That'll get tackled well there and then here. But other than that, not too much on my end.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. Brian?
All right, so you've got the financials in front of you. first page, if you look at the second box down, you'll see these are our core funds for the month of March. This is fiscal year month 11. So we are in the last month now of our fiscal year. This represents performance through 11 months. So we had income of $90,257, expenses of $97,868. So we had a negative month of $76,11, but there was $10,700 in there of trail legal expenses. So if that's not in there, then we're positive for the month. To Zach's question or Zach's point, we do have agreement from Peoria County and from Farmington. They voted last night to pay their percentage based upon the intergovernmental agreement of the due diligence expenses that we've had this year. So it's roughly $55,000 in total. And so that means that we'll get about $40,500 back. Peoria County had 45% of that total, so they're paying around $25,000, and Farmington's around $14,000 and some change, and so we'll be paying $15,000. So Zach, those legal costs are being covered. So a positive month if you take out the trail legal expenses. Then if you look at the March core funds detail, you can see general was negative, and again, that was those legal funds. You'll also see water and sewer kind of switched. So we had $33,000 of those ARPA funds from the COVID that we moved some of the income from sewer to water. So now that adequately reflects the performance of each of the departments. And again, you can see water's really our only negative, but it was negative for the month, big negative for the month because of the transfer of that income. MFT, not much to report. Income, no expense. TIF, not much to report. No income, modest expense, which was Jacob and Klein. BDD, again, good, strong income and some minor Jacob and Klein expenses there. So nothing real major. Then if you go to page 3, look at the year-to-date core funds performance. So following the center column down, income year-to-date of $1,205,760 and expenses of $992,823. So our 11-month performance is about $213,000 to the good. Remember that $213,000 number because I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Then you can look at the performance by each of the areas. So general, we're strong. Unemployment is there. Water is negative, and we knew it would be. And everything else is positive. And we're taking steps to deal with our performance on the water side. MFT, that's starting to balance out a little bit to where we'll be using some of the funds that we've set aside as we knew we would be negative. We'll be negative every year on MFT, just as a reminder. Because what comes in for the year doesn't cover the full program for the year, and we've dedicated money and set it aside to help cover that shortfall operationally. So TIF year to date we're negative, and then BDD we've really performed well. So that $120,000 worth of income. Our expenses obviously going to go up because we've worked with the Park District on an intergovernmental agreement there, but we still got a good bit of money. Next slide shows cash flow. So it basically shows total cash year-to-date variance positive, and then liquid and designated cash, again, both positive. So not a whole lot to report there. The summary chart, I've pretty much covered everything. I want you to go to the 11-month summary. And this will be, I told you to remember that $213,000 positive number. So if you take our income over expense for 11 months, we're $213,000 positive. For the full year, if you remember, we're putting $150,000 away out of checking into savings for capital expenditures. Through 11 months, that's $137,500. You following me? So we're $200,000 to the positive. We've moved $137,500 from checking into savings for future programs. So that means we've got a positive of around $75,500, even in cash flow in terms of where we stand. And the reason I want to call that out is because we've got some things we're going to talk about later that we want to use potentially some of those dollars for this year. But I wanted you to know where those monies are coming from. And then the last chart, I just started tracking monthly trends so we could look at how does our income flow, how do our expenses flow, so that when we start to get into the budgeting, maybe we can not just spread everything like peanut butter over 12 months, but maybe do things that follow those trends a little more closely. Questions for me?
I just had, you moved money to water from,
Yeah, so when we originally got the ARPA money, which is basically the COVID money, we put all of the income, we recognized all of that income into the water fund. But we ended up spending some of it on some of the expenses, what came out of water and some came out of sewer. So the amount that came out of sewer, we transferred the income from water to sewer to cover those expenses and balance out the income statement.
okay.
And that was $33,000 that we moved. What did I do something wrong?
No, just a rounding thing. $2 difference between the two charts.
Yeah,
It must just be a rounding.
it is. I round.
Or $2 are missing.
Understand.
Check my purse.
It's probably Tracy.
Oh, that,
Take it out of my check. Anything else, Brian?
Not on that.
Okay. Committee reports, Finance, Mr. Johnson.
The trail funds. Obviously, we have all that money in there. We'll spend part of it. But we've spent part of it. Won't be getting money back. I suggest we not take it out of there yet. There's no sense to run away from it until we know what will happen in the future since we've saved it. But can
We're
we
sitting at 140,000 about right now
sitting at 140 now?
in the trail. We're going to take 15 of that out.
Well, we haven't taken anything out of it yet for any of the bills we paid.
No, I'm sorry, we've paid out of that, so it'll go up, I guess, by the 40,500, so we'll be at 180.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll probably keep the money in there. Do we quit putting the money in? Can we change that at this point with our budget? Or
I thought we had it in the budget change.
did we take everything?
took
We're not
it out to
anything
zero.
anymore,
For next
right?
year, we did. So the question, I guess, is, I think you're saying leave the 180 there.
Yeah.
If something comes up on the trail in the next, 6 months or whatever, we'd have the money to do that. We can always reallocate it later. And then the second question is, we're putting $1,000 a month away. For next year's budget, we were looking at changing that, pulling it off the trail and putting it into the building fund in case we sell the property and we build the new building out at the lagoon. And if we don't do that, then we can reallocate those dollars at that time. But that's what the current budget proposal for next year shows. Is
Yeah,
that
so just-
moving that 1,000 off the trail into the.
Just leave that there then.
Everybody's cool with that?
Yeah, we'll leave it earmarked for the trail and then won't allocate anything in the next. We don't have anything allocated in the next fiscal year budget.
Just leave the money there for now, just in case if the resurfaces. I think that's all I got.
Johnson, police and planning.
According to the email we got, from 3/13 to 3/19, we had 48 incident reports, which seems a little high. And then from 3/20 to 3/26, we had 13, which seems about normal.
What was the first dates?
3/13 to 3/19, 48.
that is high.
Spring break in Hannah City.
Yeah. 3/20 to.
I think somebody was coding wrong when I was running. There was a lot of city reports tagged in there.
There was a lot of what?
City of Peoria reports tagged.
Oh,
in
was there really? Okay. So that's probably.
I think they're just coded wrong in our system.
Oh, okay. So we're probably, the addresses didn't stick out, but there's probably a First Avenue in Peoria too, just like Hannah City. So, yeah, so that's what came through, but I'm sure it's a little bit different. My drive is so in the report.
Sanitary sewer, Mr. Pearson.
Nothing for sanitary sewer.
Water, Mr. Pearson.
Yes, sir. Got some numbers for you.
Okay.
Total shutoffs for $3,472.64.
0 level pay, and 4 foreclosures for $511.93. And approximate gallons sold, 2,221,873.
Get all this?
That is it for me, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson. Rod is not here. Anything under buildings and grounds?
Yeah, nothing under buildings and grounds.
Okay, streets and alleys. I know, I'll just say the fact, I know that to item 2, we had actually budgeted last year for a skid loader for the guys for the street or whomever need to use it within the village. And I know Roger did a lot of work on that last year, and with everything changing over and everything, it just sort of, I think, got lost in the wayside. I know he does have I think he's already got a couple.
He's got one quote, yeah, and it would cost us $55,000, just under. Rod and him have been working on it. I wish Rod was here. He sent me a note saying that he was, supportive of this. They've been wanting it for a while to do some additional things. That's why finances, I showed you that we had that $75,500 of surplus. This is where that money would come from. We'd be allocating a fair amount of that to getting the skid steer. I don't have it up for a vote tonight. I just wanted to present it and see if there was support for it. If there is, we'll go through the process of getting the 3 bids and then bring an actual proposal to you at the next meeting.
I think we even looked at it 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were close, and then it didn't happen again.
Yeah, because Fred was going to check with state contracts, and then we had COVID and.
No, it was probably way before COVID.
Prior COVID?
Yeah, we looked at it before that even because I think that was the time we talked about, because Jim was concerned about the tiller. So we were going to get rid of his tiller.
The old tiller.
And we were going to they had a used tiller Bobcat. They would sell us for the skid steer so we could use that to till the sand filters with. So I don't know if we revisited that or not, but as far as attachments for it, because it would replace a small tractor that he had that he ran that tiller off of. We were going to get rid of one piece of equipment and add another one.
So Roger writes, could replace the Ford tractor, which is falling in disrepair, utilize the skid steer for cold planting of asphalt, grading dirt and gravel, ditch reshaping and grading and sweeping. Sweeper could be used in the spring and fall for early maintenance of streets and gutters. It could also be useful in conjunction with the tar and chip program to clean up the excess rock after application of the seal coat, help with snow removal, backfilling dig sites, yard cleanup, unloading and loading supplies, leveling and removal of sidewalks, stringer attachment rental for breaking up concrete, auger attachment rental for post hole digging, brush cutter attachment rental, trencher attachment. Anyway.
Sweeper attachment's nice because the majority of our street work is seal coating. And you'll have that excess gravel, or if you have a sweeper yourself, you can revisit the streets multiple times after traffic's at them for 2 weeks, a month and a half. You go back yourself and sweep and prevent all that rock from getting into the ditches, which always raises the bottom of the ditches up and clogs, culverts and everything. So that alone would be
Start taking out windows.
do up.
Start taking out.
Yeah, I mean every ditch in town, if you dig at the bottom, is going to be full of pea gravel from plowing and stuff. All that excess gravel that's up on the side. Yeah, I mean we could use it for a ton of stuff.
And it's not real significant, but we do rent a backhoe, or we do rent a skid steer maybe 3 or 4 times a year now, so those costs would go away. But that's not enough to justify it in and of itself, but there are some costs that we'll save there. That's why I showed you that $75,000 before, because I think we've got the dollars to do it. It was in the budget. We're still. I mean, we got 1 month to go, but I don't think we're going to lose a bunch of money in 1 month. So
Yeah. We've agreed we've needed it for 4 years through different iterations of the board and just haven't bought it yet.
So you're good with me asking him to go ahead and get 3 quotes, and we'll bring a proposal back at the next meeting.
Does he put together a spec that he's given everybody so they're bidding identical stuff?
I'll have that conversation with him, but yeah.
Yeah, just so it's not a phone call, tell him to give us a price on
Is
the
it-
skid steer. Put something together that's, this is what he's looking for that he can send to each of them so everybody's on a level playing field.
And who's gonna get the quotes?
Roger.
Right.
Also under streets and alleys is the MFT program that Brandon talked about. So the way that process works is we put together the program, we put together the bid package. Brandon, if I say anything wrong, tell me. We send it out, and then we ask for people to bid on it. I want to pause here and give a bunch of credit to Roger and actually even Brandon and Joe. We talked about moving it up earlier in the process so that we could get more people to bid on it, because last year they told us they didn't bid because they were already full up. So we intentionally moved it up earlier in the process. We ended up getting 2 bids this time, which is the first time in 6 years, and it turned out to be significant. I didn't realize this, but there's a whole pomp and circumstance around. You can't open the bids until a certain time of day when you say you're going to do it. And IDOT was here, and Joe was here, and we all sat around and opened the envelopes like at the Oscars or something. But we ended up with one quote for a little over $70,000, and the competitive quote for just a little over $50,000. So it was I think it was close to $23,000 cheaper. Was that what it was?
It was a near thing though, because Roger saw the bid and went, "Hey, let's look and see what they're bidding." The night before, it's like,
Yeah, 73,765 to 50,140.54. Roger last year was frustrated that we didn't get more than 1 quote. So he started talking to all these other communities and asked them who quotes their stuff. And then he was reaching out to those contractors and saying, please bid on our stuff, and we're going to get it out earlier. And one of those that he talked to did bid, and that was one of the ones that turned out to be lower. So the good news is, I got some notes here. We had estimated we were going to spend 66 for the streets. That was taking Runkle out and 10 for sidewalks, 76 total, plus a contingency. I think we proved a program around $90,000, something like that. We ended up we're going to take the $50,000 quote. So now we can put Runkle back in and just spend the money that we've been setting aside for that. So, and we think that's going to be around $17,000. So if we're 50 plus the 10 for sidewalks would be 60 plus another 17, we'd be at 77. Is that right? So we'd be under the original cost of the program, and we're doing everything we wanted to do in year 2 of the 5-year plan. So kudos to Roger, kudos to Joe and Brandon for your help getting it all together and pulling it up earlier in the process. So we're excited.
Just one little caveat, and I know it's a nuance, but it has to be general funds, not MFT funds.
Correct, and they may.
Simon.
For us, though, it's that we were going to have to use those funds anyway, right, to do the full program if it was at $92,000. So it's money that we've set aside, and we have to quote it different, and we had to pay it separate.
Yep.
And so Joe made us understand, and the IDAT guy made us understand all of those rules. So we're going to approach that contractor with a separate quote and go from there.
Exactly. In the end, it doesn't matter. It's accounting.
No. All in all, though, it's really.
Yeah, it matters. The point is just like you're saying, you're getting, you're realizing extra bang for your buck, which was the entire intent of this thing. Was with limited funds to get the best that you can in a tough situation with oil prices the way they are. Things are expensive, and by being competitive, you were able to secure a really good price and be able to do more with less.
So it's been a good couple of weeks, $40,500 back on the trail, and then saving $23,000 on the street program. Yeah, so it's been a good week. That's it on streets.
So
economic development, Mr. Sidak.
So my most current information is that we're almost out of the forest when it comes to getting out of the purchase agreement. Apparently, we're still waiting on back from IDNR about some stuff. And then of course, the big thing is we got the signed intergovernmental agreement here. And also, while I was at the Park District meeting last night, I brought up the fact that we are looking to assemble the Council for Economic, or the Community and Economic Development Council, to which Megan Welker said, yeah, I'm supposed to be on that. So she knows more than I do. But yeah, I'm currently trying to assemble the council. I'm hoping for a meeting sometime in May. So that is in the works.
Only one other thing I would add is we've written a joint statement on from us in the Park District relative to the project, the roof project, and really trying to help people see and understand what TIF and BDD dollars can do for the community. I would hope to release that, I don't know, in the next week or so. Get that out so people can see it. But basically, the tone of it is these programs are helping the village and buy local. And every time you do, you put money in these coffers that allow us to do things like this. So.
Remind me what that council will oversee.
It will be an advisory body to the village. It's made up of representatives from the taxing bodies, i.e. the village, the Park District, Lincoln Trevally Fire District, the school, and the public library in Farmington. And it will have 2 at-large members from the community, appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the board.
We made the commitment when we did the TIF district that we would talk about how TIF funds are going to be spent before with the taxing bodies before we spend those dollars, and we've just kind of broadened it to talk about BDD and economic development in total, so that there's some understanding of what dollars are coming in and what we're doing with them.
Yeah.
That is all I have.
This meeting is going way too fast compared to the last few.
Like the last 2 or 3.
No such thing as too fast.
I think the fastest one we've ever had has been about 15 minutes. That was a Chuck Manco.
We hadn't even started the meeting the last 2 times.
Right, I'm going to start with other business.
Okay, under the other business. So if you remember, about a year ago, we had a discussion about whether or not we needed to have a managed service program here. And I honestly was for it. It didn't get a vote by the board. There wasn't enough support for it. And I think in hindsight, I think that was a good decision. As I'm trying to make sure that we've got everything, kind of all of our bases covered. And one of the things we found is that rather than do the managed service project or agreement, which would be, $20,000 annual expense, we've kind of looked at, can we just upgrade the hardware to make sure that we've got the right commercial firewall, that we've got the right switch, we've got all the things here in order to protect ourselves, and we don't necessarily have to leverage or need the monitoring and the ongoing support. And so I sent out quotes and got some information. But basically what I would like to do, again, this would be coming out of that surplus money we talked about. So the part of it would be going to the skid steer and part of it would be going to this. But we've already bought the new computers. We would need the firewall switch and that kind of stuff. And that's around $5,000 to get the new firewall and the switch and everything. And then there'd be about $2,000 worth of labor to get all the new computers set up and get the new firewall and everything put in. So it'd be about $7,000 to do this. But we're probably going to have to spend the labor on the computer setup anyway, which would be about $1,000. Again, I don't have it up here for a vote. I wanted to have the conversation about it as to whether or not it's worthwhile for me to refresh the quote and bring it to the next meeting for a debate and a possible vote. And then I think rather than do the ongoing the support agreement, we just do a break fix program where if something happens, we'll call and I think that'll be enough to support us. But I'd be looking for about $7,000 The new computers are been ordered. We're waiting on the monitors. Supply chain has slowed those down. But those will come in. We'll order the firewall and the switch, and then we'll have them come out and set everything up and make sure we're locked down and secure. That's my thoughts. What do you guys think?
Will I cover my computer?
It will.
Because I can come into your set. I don't know. Sure. I don't know if when I print it, but I don't have a firewall at all.
What was the skid loader quote?
54 and some change, just under 55. This would be another 7, so we'd be 62 of the 75.
Sounds like a good investment of extra money.
What do we have right now?
We've got well, maybe I let the IT guy talk, but we've got not a commercial grade.
We don't have a firewall. We have 2 unmanaged switches. We have a residential Wi-Fi. So, I mean, all pretty easily hackable. So,
Don't say that too loud.
well, nobody's on the meeting, but I'm trying to dance around this. But one of the things is everybody. I just joined a group called InfraGuard. It's with the FBI, the National Crimes Information, and the amount of public bodies that are getting hacked. Basically off one
They're
email.
getting the ransomware.
Well, not just that.
Holding them hostage.
Well, they do phishing attacks. So basically, they send you an email saying, "Hey, go into this," and then it pops up and says, "Oh, enter your Microsoft credentials." So you enter them. Nope, it's not working. It's not working. Well, you just sent the attackers your Microsoft information. They log in online with your account, Microsoft 365. That's why we set up 2-factor authentication. But they do that. They go out on the web. They have your address book. So then now they spam everybody in your address book, the exact same thing you just got. And then it's just a repeating thing.
And last year when I got an email from Fred, and it wasn't Fred. He was asking for money. I was like, I don't even know you.
Yeah, when I was in Germantown, they still at Germantown, about twice a month they get an email from the village president that says, "Do you have a minute? Can you assist me with this task? Another wiring task?"
That was the email I got.
And it's just an ongoing thing. Unfortunately, in today's cyber electronic world, you're going to have the people out there that are going to do this. This will help the village secure itself from any malicious intent, and also protect us liability-wise. Since we hold names, addresses, and stuff like that in our Locus software that could be easily obtained and then put out. So that also helps us against liability to our residents. So.
You convinced me. Let's do it.
Well, Brian, I'll have to do all that.
Yeah, I'll get the quotes and stuff. But if you want me to, I'll bring a proposal to the next meeting.
Tony's very persuasive.
I'm trying to stay out of it as much as possible. So that brings us to item B, Farmington Central Academic Foundation Scholarship. This is the one that we do every year. We're actually running late on this. It's $1,000. We do the scholarship every year.
I'm convinced. I make a motion to give $1,000 to fully fund the Hannah City Scholarship.
Motion by Johnson.
Caleb's patience is right.
Second by Pearson. We haven't really voted on anything.
It
was Pearson last time. So, any further discussion? Sidak?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Yes. Rixell? Pearson?
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay. And then item C, board meeting starting time. What does everybody think about moving our board meetings up to 6 a.m.?
6 p.m.
6 a.m. I'm fine with that too.
I'm not, but okay.
To 6 p.m.
Does 6 p.m. not work for anybody if we moved it up an hour?
I actually moved to that class, so
Okay.
I had a class going on until like 6:50 in Bloomington, but I moved it, so it doesn't really matter.
Are you good?
Yeah, I might need to talk with you about that one because Bill and I have another meeting in another municipality. I think at 6:30 on Tuesdays, same as you guys. And if there's a chance that one of us can't cover, one of us is sick, one of us is out of town, maybe we could make separate arrangements. But
Okay.
we might need to talk in more detail. Also, there is some requirements we have to hit in order to change the meeting time. So at the beginning of each calendar year or fiscal year, we have to publish a list of a schedule of all our meeting dates, times, and locations. Not necessarily publish, just make the public aware through some.
We actually published one at the beginning of the calendar year, so could we just have to revise it?
We have to do that, but it takes 10 days notice. That one would need to be published in the paper, and it takes 10 days notice. So there's a chance next week it could get published in time for
Okay.
10 days ahead of the next meeting.
We don't need to vote on it, do we?
I don't think so.
Is anybody against it?
It does require an ordinance change though, because it is in our code.
Oh, it's in our code now?
It's in the code. Double
Okay.
check.
Okay.
So it takes an ordinance.
So you wait to amend the code.
Yeah.
Okay. If it weren't in the code, I think all we would need to do is
I
publish
checked.
something in the paper. Thank you for checking.
Okay, so that at the next meeting, we gotta have an ordinance for government work. So we'll create a ordinance.
Or revise the current one.
Correct. And it's all, someone will need that schedule so that they get published in PJ Star, whatever newspaper we want to use.
See you later.
You and I can talk about that offline.
Okay. So at this time,
Do you want to do board attendance? Do we need to talk about that at all?
oh, did everybody get a chance to look at board attendance? Yes,
Yeah.
no?
Yeah.
Yes.
you look at it.
Okay, so I think we're good on board attendance.
Do we need to vote next time?
We shouldn't need to vote on board attendance or for payout because that's already in our,
Already in the bills presented for payment?
yeah, I mean, no, it's not yet.
It'll be in the next.
It'll be on the next one
okay.
because it's already, we've already got it budgeted and everything,
Yeah.
so we don't have to vote on to pay for meetings we've already attended.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Good.
I can see what we did in October. Just to verify.
Motion spreadsheet.
Hmm?
Look through the motion spreadsheet.
Oh.
What we did in October.
Yeah, I can.
Okay. Oh, sure.
Yeah, no, I was like, I can look and see what we did.
So then we have a few employment compensation specifics to go over. So we will be going to an executive session. So anybody who is not a board member, I would ask to, with the exception of the clerk,
Thank you.
go ahead and leave at this time.
We do still need a motion.
Right.
Thanks, guys.
Second.
Motion by Syed, second by Johnson.
Stating the exception that it's something we have to do.
Pursuant to 5 ILCS 120-2 C1, the employment and compensation of specific employees.
Second.
Motion by Syed, second by Johnson. Any further discussion?
Should we close the door?
We
After Brian leaves.
This does need to be roll call.
Right. Oh, yes, we do have to roll call that. So, Johnson,
Yes.
Brixell, yes. Pearson,
Yes.
Syed,
Yes.
motion carried.
And I'm gonna stop recording.